Hello, you're watching attheraces.com, the Cheltenham Preview 2014. The World Hurdle is the 3-mile championship race for staying hurdle, and Mick Fitzgerald and I will hopefully put a bit of light on some of the major contenders. Let's have a look at some of them now.
Heading down towards the last, and Big Bucks is now in complete command from Dynast. Then Restless Harry behind these in 5 Dream. It's never over until the final flight, and Big Bucks sails over it. 5 Dream in second with Restless Harry, and back in 4th place was Dynast. Briefly on the home turn, it looked maybe as if there was a pretender to Staying Bucks' crown, but staying is the name of the game for Big Bucks. 14 consecutive successes over hurdles, the highest rated jumping horse in training, lands the Lockdown long walk hurdle. 2 class acts on their way down towards the last. ZARKANDAR on the left, Annie Power shaken up, moves alongside. ZARKANDAR needs another good leap, but Annie Power jumped it equally as well. They fight it out. Annie Power, pink jacket, ZARKANDAR a neck down over on the far side. Annie Power beginning to edge away, and Annie Power will remain unbeaten, making it 8 out of 8. Ruby Walsh wins in style the Ascot hurdle. In second, ZARKANDAR, who lost very little in defeat, giving the weight away.
Tweedledum's moved into 4th. REVE SIVOLA at the second last. Not a great leap. Salubrious was challenging there, but he stumbled on landing. At Fisher's Cross is in second. But REVE SIVOLA then, bidding to win his second long walk hurdle, is heading down towards the final flight with a 3 or 4 length lead. At Fisher's Cross in second. He's hard ridden and he's not closing the gap. REVE SIVOLA comes towards the last then. At it now. Big leap. Safely over it. At Fisher's Cross is unseated AP at the last. And so it's REVE SIVOLA's second win in the race for this horse, and a 4th long walk victory for jockey Richard Johnson.
They're on the run now towards the final flight, and it's Rule the World, the leader, from Jenny's Jewel, Upsy and Dungwib as they make their way down towards the final flight in the limestone-led hurdle. It's Rule the World, the leader, 3 lengths clear over the last, stepped at it but is out in front as they race uphill towards the finish. Rule the World is going to rule all right. He's making every inch of the running. He's 6 lengths clear, and Rule the World and Brian Cooper will win the limestone-led hurdle for Mouse Morris and Jigginstown House. Jenny's Jewel second, Dungwib is third. In 3rd place, who do you think? And 4 is Clep. Now they come down to the final flight, and Umbomati with Boston Bob now ranging right up on the inside as they come to the final flight. And over at Boston Bob lands in the lead from Umbomati, and they're clear. And on the run to the final 200 yards and up to the finish, Boston Bob drawing on clear as they race up towards the finish. Boston Bob and Ruby Walsh going to win it by 8 lengths to second home Umbomati.
Well, there we have a look at some of the major contenders for the World Hurdle. Mick Fitzgerald is with me. We must start off talking about Big Bucks, who made a comeback at Cheltenham. It wasn't a winning comeback, but it was, according to connections, a thoroughly satisfactory one. And what about his chances of regaining the crown?
I think there's no doubt about it. You know, for many years he was... Well, he was your banker bet, wasn't he? It was almost like going to an ATM and getting your money out of the wall, because that's what it was like. You could set your clock by him. That can't be said of him now. And
on the evidence of that run, or just
well, the fact that he's
gap.
had time off, you ask yourself, how many of these horses ever come back as good as they were?
Well, the old phrase, they never come back. I mean, some of them do, but not as good as they were in their prime.
And you know, if you look at the race and the whole and look at it purely from a form perspective, you have to say to yourself, well, he ran to probably 25, 30 pounds below what he's capable of in that race. Yes, he's got some improvement in him. And the one thing I will say, he had a hard race at Cheltenham, but he is trained by a man who is a past master at bringing horses back basically almost from the dead, because I've ridden horses for him and thought that has no chance of recovering from such a hard race. But because he primes his horses to a very, very high physical level, they can recover quicker And it's very true. If you have a horse that's fit, they recover quicker from a harder race. So that's the one thing he's got in his favour. And you rule him out at your peril.
Well, the signs have been, I mean, Paul Nicholls has been saying that you're going to see a much, much better horse in the World Hurdle.
Yeah, but he's not going to say you're not going to see a worse horse, is he?
No,
but,
of course he's
not. That's the way you've got to look at it. You've got to be... You said to me there's no room for sentiment in this game. If that's the case, well, if there's no room for sentiment, you look at that piece of form of his run at Cheltenham, and it's not good enough, basically, regardless of whether he's got room for improvement fitness-wise or not. You have to say to yourself, purely on the facts, he's not good enough to win a World Hurdle. And that is the worry for me. But, like I've said, he's trained by a guy who is brilliant at bringing horses back.
So don't rule it out, but move over, Big Bucks. Someone else is going to win. 11 years old. Let's look at a younger horse. We can't confirm, of course, the runners at the moment, but at the time of talking, a major player is Annie Power. 6 years old. She's been a star. She's run 10 times in her life. She's won every single time. And here we can see her. She beats a pretty useful yardstick in ZARKANDAR. This was back at Ascot. And was, you know, she'd been up in the betting for the champion hurdle, but she seems to stay all right.
This was the first we saw her run in the UK. She's been over here 3 times this year now, and this was the first time we saw her. Now, I defy anybody to watch this and not say that isn't the performance of a horse, a world hurdler.
Well, she beat a good
She
stayer,
beat a good
didn't she?
yardstick over 2 miles 3 at Ascot, and she looked like she needed every yard of that trip to get on top there. And for me, I love the way she hits the line, because everything points towards World Hurdle, and I cannot get rid of that image out of my head.
What's been the game plan, really? Because then next time out, she was dropped back to just over 2 miles and a furlong at Doncaster, which gave you the impression that Willie Mullins was thinking, well, you know, the champion hurdle's the one.
But that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to find out, you know, is she going to be sharp enough for 2 miles? So they ran her at Doncaster, where they know they're going to get some decent ground. In a mare's race, yes. Against inferior opposition, yes. But at the same time, she was quite keen in that race over 2 miles, and she looked like she didn't lack pace. And maybe as the season progresses, she has actually got a bit sharper and a bit quicker. And that's why they've got the doubts about the trip. But I have no doubts about her ability to stay. And I've got no doubts about her ability. And Ruby Walsh, who has ridden Big Bucks, let's face it, to nearly all of his big race wins. He won 4 World Hurdles on the horse. He has always said about this mare, Annie Power, any gelding will struggle to give her £7. For that reason, you go back through and look at her form every single time again. I
mean, she could be that good, but she'd win at any trip. Let's have a look at another contender now. Nick Williams runs REVE de SIVOLA. Also, we see rather an unfortunate, you see on the left of the picture, at Fisher's Cross, who unships the rider here at the, is it the final flight? Well, yeah, it will be the final flight. At Fisher's Cross has since bounced back to form.
He went down by a head to Knockara Bow.
And he's beaten Big Bucks.
In that thriller where Big Bucks was third.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd have said on the face of it, if you fancy Big Bucks, well, then you've got to fancy at Fisher's Cross. He's a previous Cheltenham Festival winner when he won the Albert Bartlett, so he's got a lot going for him. At Fisher's Cross, he was imperious on this day. This is a race he'd won for the 2nd time, the Long Walk Hurdle. You can see Salubrious back in 2nd. He was a winner of the Martin Pipe at the Cheltenham Festival. So you've got a lot of horses who have got previous form at the festival, which is always a massive plus. At Fisher's Cross, AP has pinned these colours to his mast ahead of more of that, horse trained by John Joe O'Neill. Many people were surprised at that, but the fact that he's been to the Cheltenham Festival and won there, and AP knows there's improvement in him from that race at Cheltenham.
I'm going to get you to pin your colours to the mast. Not what's going to win, but in a match bet, who would you have, Big Bucks or at Fisher's Cross? Got you thinking, isn't it?
It has got me thinking, yeah. I think I'd go Big Bucks, because I just feel that, yes, there's improvement to come from that race at Cheltenham, but at Fisher's Cross, there's still questions about his jumping.
OK, next one we can have a look at, Mouse Morris's horse, Rule the World. And we can have a look at him. He was a winner last time up at Naas over just further than 2 miles, but he is a stayer. He stays well, finished 2nd behind Zaidpur at Leopardstown. What about the chances of a Mouse Morris trained winner, Rule the World?
This is a smart horse. And in a year where you've got surprises aplenty at the head of the market at the moment before we go into these races, you know, this horse has got some very good form to his name. And, you know, in this race here, 3 of the horses that finished behind him have gone on and won next time. So the form is a solid look to it. He's a very smart horse. He's trained by a man who knows how to get them ready for the big day, and he could be a player at a big price.
Obviously, there are other contenders. AP decided on that Fisher's Cross, but he did have the choice of the other JP McManus horse, More of That. A major player, do you feel?
Yeah, his horse is improving all the time. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. He's a horse who's really on an upward curve. I just think that there's just more to come from the likes of Annie Power.
I know what you're going to go for. I just wanted to hear you say it.
Just Annie Power. That's all it is.
Annie Power for Mick Fitzgerald, and you've been watching the AtTheRaces.com preview of the World Hurdle.